Herodotus, the Greek historian, reported that the ancient Persians tended to deliberate on important matters when they were drunk. Then they would reconsider those decisions the following day when they were sober. If it happened that their first deliberation took place when they were sober, then they would consider the matter while under the influence of wine. If the decision was approved both drunk and sober, the decision held. If not, the Persians set it aside. My name is Willows.
And my name is Tyler.
And we're both young business guys who still adhere to these ancient traditions. Join us as we debate and discuss business topics, moves we're making, politics, and more, both sober and then drunk, to see if we come to the same conclusions. This is Alcohol Beyond This Point. And I think that's the best intro I've recorded yet.
Perfect. So you're going to pronounce it different every time?
Yeah, that's the plan. What are we drinking today, Tyler?
Shrugging Doctor.
This episode sponsored by Shrugging Doctor Beverage Company,
and the Garrison.
And the Garrison Tavern. This episode sponsored by Shrugging Doctor Beverage Company that just so happens to be the winery that I own, out of coincidence.
Yeah, completely coincidental.
Completely coincidental, but they gave us 2 bottles of delicious raspberry wine here today to drink. And then I also brought a Mickey of Crown Royal whiskey made just up north here, in case we're feeling peckish. But topic today, my friend.
Topic of the day is, should entrepreneurs believe in happiness?
So you brought this one up the other day, and I immediately thought, you're an idiot, of course. And you said, no. And I said, okay, hold it there. We're going to talk on air. So explain your idiotic, of course, we can be happy and believe in it, right? Like, are you dumb?
Great start. Highly intelligent rebuttal. Love it. First, maybe better to define happiness as we understand it.
I always understood happiness as success as the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. I don't know who said that, but happiness very ties into that. Like, because everyone's idea of happiness can be different, just like everyone's idea of success can be different.
Sure. Which is going to make this conclusion virtually worthless, but
fair.
It should be interesting.
Yeah, but I don't know. Okay, well, let's say happiness. In my mind, at least, you have more good days than you have bad.
Right.
I guess would be, semi-happiness, right? I don't know. Like,
I think this kind of, for me, it wraps back to, and I was told this years ago, and I thought it was idiotic when I heard it as well. Mm-hmm. But, seeing, your experiences in business from the outside and, the other people that I work with, and it seems like happiness isn't necessarily what, founders get to enjoy, because it's kind of this effect of you can never let yourself kind of get up too high, because then you slip or, get slack on things.
What do you think we're working for, though, if not happiness?
A greater purpose, right? We have someone like myself, speaking for myself, I do what I do because I believe, it's what I meant to do. I have the ability to, and in some ways I kind of feel obligated to. And if I don't, I go in, like, I'm absolutely miserable. If I work like a basic job where I'm not being challenged and stressed out, I'm more miserable then. But I wouldn't say that doing what I do now, I do it to make me happy.
Okay.
I think just in general, as a business owner, you always have these, the burdens of the future on you.
Sure.
I just recently watched the Ford versus Ferrari movie. Yeah. And they win the Le Mans, and they just skip over the winner's circle and they just start talking about what they're doing for the car next year. Yeah. And that's like an analogy that I believe in that founders do, because talk to any founder that's ever hit a milestone. Like, they may, pop a bottle of champagne and have a smile, but before that night's even over, he's going to be sitting there thinking about what's happening tomorrow.
I feel that. Yeah, that's every single time we've expanded. That's been
right.
Yeah.
the the reward, the carrot on a stick, the achievement of a milestone or the purchase of something you've always wanted, that is not actually anything that is really makes people that happy, because it's like people like us just kind of believe it's going to come, and when it comes, it's like, okay, well, I was expecting this all along. It's not like a happy surprise. It's like, okay, now it's here. Now what's next? Not that it's like a healthy discontentedness. But if you sat back and you just celebrated in like that new vehicle or that nice house, you're kind of, in my opinion, admitting that you're done.
I think there's a lot of people that hit a certain level and then stop trying as hard because they've found a comfortable level.
Right. At that point, you kind of are shifting mindsets from, I'm a founder and a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, to maybe, I don't know, to define entrepreneur, let's say, because that's the other major part of this. Should entrepreneurs believe in happiness? Not should individuals. Individuals, sure.
Of course.
I'm going to have a happy retirement. Absolutely. That's going to be the goal, is probably happiness and giving back. But
you're saying you don't think that we can have, people like us can't have happiness during
the entrepreneurial
journey. I disagree with that. I think although, okay, like if we're looking at it in a vacuum, I look at just my business, because obviously I have other extenuating circumstances, and everyone has other extenuating circumstances in their life that maybe would make them unhappy.
Right.
But if I look at just my business, I think I have more good days than bad days, even when I was broke.
Sure, maybe I'm in the wrong business.
Maybe you are.
And you
don't think you have more good days than bad days?
No, I think I do. But like my good days aren't ones where I sit back and smile. It's like,
I don't think you need to be like necessarily sitting there and being like, I am very happy right now to be happy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you like. I don't think you necessarily need to stop. You know what I mean? Like, it just because you're happy doesn't mean you need to level off. Like Gary Vaynerchuk always has that opinion of like, if you love the actual hustle and you love the grind, then that is happiness, like doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah, it's really difficult to define. Is it an emotional state? Is it just?
Well, I guess there's a difference between like happiness, contentness. Like, we could argue about semantics all day.
Yeah.
But the intent of the question. Well, I guess, okay.
Is that the goal?
Number one, do you think, for the majority of entrepreneurs, do you think that the journey is worth the end result is worth the journey?
For majority?
Yeah.
I think if you ask, like,
because it's hard, right? Being an entrepreneur is hard. Starting something's hard.
I think if you ask people, at least from what I've read and heard, when they're, on their last days close to death, what are your regrets?
It's never working more.
Right. It's never working more. It's going to be something around family or friends or, it's usually relationship based.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it that I kind of wanted to address about being an entrepreneur is the isolation and loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more successful you become and the more committed you are, the deeper the pit goes, or just the further you separate yourself from everyone else around you.
Yeah.
And for context, let's kind of back up. So we haven't recorded for over 2 months.
Yeah.
And it's my fault.
It's your fault because you disappeared to Cleveland without telling anyone for 3 months.
Yeah, I went to Cleveland with days notice for a 2-month span.
Because you have a bunch of real estate holdings down there, so you went down there to.
Yeah, and I'm not going to get into details. Obviously I still work in Canada here, but we're just going down there checking up on stuff, and it's just a period of isolation.
Yeah. And
the people that we networked with, when we're going out and socializing, and happiness and contentedness, are not things you'll find with these high level guys. You know,
That's fair.
I met this guy who bought $40 million in property in the last 12 months, and all he could say is like, man, I wish I did this when I was 30. Like, he's not saying I'm pumped that I just did 40 million in business. He's just pissed that he didn't do it 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what I think of. And everyone, because he only started, let's say, 2-3 years ago, and he used to work for, he was an executive in some company, and he had to put his family through all kinds. He had to put his wife through all sorts. He left most of his friends. His circles changed. His habits changed. He worked way, way more. And at the end of it, it's like, are you happier? And he's like, well, I like what I'm doing. But, there's a great sacrifice to doing that. And in going out to Cleveland was a great sacrifice, and it's probably one of the best things I've done in a long time. I thoroughly enjoyed the trip, but I wouldn't say that I was happy through any of it.
I wasn't happy when you were gone either.
Right, exactly. So, and that's part of it, because you see the effect you have on the people around you.
Well, after you don't drink with me like 4 days a week, I realize how little friends I actually have.
Right.
No, we've obviously both done that, starting businesses, and over the last 5 years, we've definitely, whether it was conscious, I'll just speak for myself, whether it was conscious that I cut off friends, or whether they cut off me because of my habits changing, shifting focus, whatever. There's only so many times someone invites you out on the weekend that you say, "Oh, sorry, I'm working," until they stop inviting you, right?
Right. So how does that make you feel about your business?
That's what I'm trying to get to is like, I've definitely gone through that and lost a lot of people and whatever. I guess the question is, with the same information, would I do anything different? No, probably not.
And that's the answer you'll always get.
Yeah. From anybody.
Right. But not because it makes you happy.
But that's the goal, though.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't know. What else am I doing?
I don't think it is, man.
What? For what? For me specifically, or anybody?
For you specifically.
I don't know. What else am I doing?
I mean, there's a lot of different things. Sticking it to the man.
That's true. That makes me happy.
Right? People do it for family. Do it for legacy. Do it for your future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, when it comes to making decision A or decision B, you're not going to choose the one. And maybe this is another part of my thinking, because I've just ruminated on this question a lot, not actually verbalized it, kind of by design, right? Like we said, we didn't want to pre-talk about this. When you're faced with two decisions, you're going to choose, especially when you're in a ownership position or a partnership position, or your shareholders or whatever, you have your fiduciary duty.
Yeah.
Which, for those of you that don't know, that's putting the
corporation needs ahead of your own.
The well-being of the corporation ahead of your own, and like you're willingly signing up for that.
Yeah.
Enthusiastically signing up for that, and in many cases, it's not. Those are not aligned, right? The good of the company, the good of your personal life.
Not usually. I said this the other day. We have pretty much every weekend from now till Christmas, we have 3 samplings at liquor stores every weekend. Right. So they're triple booked. So I have my employee doing one, I have my other employee doing one, then I'm doing one. And I don't like doing them, and I'm double booked. Like, I have to go from one event all morning to another, to that sampling all afternoon, like every Saturday from now for the next 3 months. And I was kind of complaining about it, and my partner's like, "Well, you said it was fine. Like, you said it was okay that you did them." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, it's fine the same way that hand bombing 80 cases of liquor out of the truck to deliver to the government is fine. Like, I don't want to do it, but it needs to be done. It's part of the business, right? Like, it's just, it needs to get done. So I do it, right? So that I wouldn't say is me being happy." But for instance, like on the weekend, I was out in your neck of the woods in southern Manitoba, and I was at an event, and I sold very, very well, like hundreds of bottles in this 6-hour event. And little things like that, like every single transaction that I can do that I can give someone a taste and they love it and they buy multiple bottles and they want to buy some to give away and all this, that's such a heartwarming feeling. Like the little things like that make up for all the bad that I have to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and like, even if you take business out of the equation, you take any context out of the equation, that's how life is, right? There's always shitty things, right? Your phone breaks, your car breaks down, or your fucking dog dies, or, there's always shitty things in life. But like,
your kids puke on the floor, your dog shits on the bed.
Yeah, whatever, right? There's always things that happen.
The joys of parenthood.
Yeah, there's always things that happen that are whatever. But like I said, like, do you have more good days than bad, right? I think that would be a good kind of indication of happiness.
I've probably done more cool and fun stuff this year than I've ever done before.
Yeah. Well, then that's another thing, right? Is how do you contextualize it, right? Are you happy if you have more good days than bad in a week? Or if you have more good days than bad in a year? Or more good days than bad in a lifetime, right? Because the idea of most entrepreneurs, I think, is work, 120 hours a week for 5 years and then just fucking do whatever you want for the rest of your life because you're set. Right?
10 years or 20 years or whatever.
Whatever it is, but sacrifice, so what kind of timeline are we looking at, right? Because if it's a lifetime, I would say myself and probably you as well are well on our way to having more good days than bad in over a strain of our lives.
Well, let me ask the question this way. If you were to make happiness one of the goals for, let's say, 2020, New Year's coming up, and you're like, I want to have a happier life, whatever that means to you. I want to have a lot of good days this next year. What's that? It's probably going to entail a bunch of compromise.
Xanax.
Or that. See, that's the other part of the equation that I noticed with high-level entrepreneurs.
We abuse drugs to be happy?
Yeah.
That's fleeting, though. You can't do that forever.
No, exactly. I mean, no, just not drugs per se, but people that work extremely hard and are under extremely high degrees of stress and pressure, and there's a lot to lose, and dozens of families relying on your continued success.
Yeah.
When all signs point otherwise, you have all these things going on. Those people tend to also party harder, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
Will engage in recreational sports more aggressively. Just kind of the work hard, play hard idea just seems to just crank up and up and up and up to the point where I was speaking to this guy who was in a meeting with probably one of the highest level business guys in our city, Richardson. I forget the first name, but basically the head patriarch of the Richardson family, which is worth hundreds of millions here in the city. And he was casually speaking about going on, or I think he hiked up Mount Kilimanjaro with another businessman in town, and they're both in their 60s. He's like, oh yeah, we hiked Kilimanjaro last month. Yeah, I love that guy. And it's it just keeps elevating.
Yeah.
I think that's just kind of how it goes. But those guys, you just do it casually at that point. And I see, the highest level people that I've met kind of have this same idea where they're never completely content, but they're never actually, you never get them down and you'll never get them up.
Yeah, but do you think people that go to work at, and not, I'm generalizing, but do you think people that go to work at McDonald's are 100% content with their life?
They're doing nothing they want to.
At least I'm doing some things I want to.
Right. Well, eventually doing everything you want to.
Yeah, or more or less.
Right.
You might not ever want to, no matter what position you're in, there's probably going to be someone harassing you for something, right? There's going to be one of your managers of a company that you owns company that they owns company is trying to call you to fucking figure it. You know what I mean? You're
always out there cracking skulls, breaking hearts.
Yeah.
closing deals, whatever it may be.
Yeah. But I guess like because like I wouldn't be happier if I quit my business and got a job at a warehouse.
What do you think Trump would say to this question?
I think he'd say he's happy, probably. I'm the happiest person there's ever been.
So happy.
That was a bad Trump.
So happy.
I'm happier than any president has ever been.
He might. He might, actually, now that I think of it. So
I don't know. I think if you Steve Jobs had a quote where he said he every morning he would look himself in the mirror and ask himself, "Do I want to do this today?" And if the answer was ever no for too long, he would change.
That's fair.
So that's the same kind of idea, I'd say.
I think for a lot of people, the ends justify the means.
I think they do, absolutely. Do you believe that?
I mean, obviously.
You wouldn't be here if you did.
Right.
If you didn't, right?
I mean, we're sitting in this big, beautiful office here, which was, taken on a complete moonshot. Like, 1 month was debating whether or not to buy, a whiteboard this size or a whiteboard that size because of price. And then, 2 months later, getting 4,000 square feet of office space and just hoping and praying that you could fill it up with people.
Yeah.
And justify the expense by the time the payments started hitting hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been fun at all. I wasn't here at that point.
Yeah. I've been there, though. Right? Every part of my business has been, we pretty much do that. We jump in before we...
You almost got destroyed by that, right?
Multiple times. Multiple times I've been there. But sitting here today, even though I'm under a tremendous amount of stress and my business still isn't exactly where I want it to be and I still have to do a ton of work, I would say that my sacrifices I made 2 years ago paid off in getting me to where I am now. You know what I mean? I think like...
What do your parents say about it?
What?
You're, living a hard, stressful life. Like, you got the kind of skills that could get you a pretty good paying job. Career.
I could get
you could have a house by now.
I could get a $200,000 sales position anywhere that I'm qualified for.
Right. So, how do your parents feel about that?
I think they've kind of resigned to the fact that they'll never understand where I'm coming from. As soon as I said I didn't want to go to college, they were like, does not compute, because they're both, lifelong government employees and college graduates and, whatever. I think as soon as I started going in a different direction, they didn't really understand. So I think at this point they're beyond comprehension of what I'm doing or what I'm going through or why I'm doing it.
Yeah, I think the purpose is what confuses people.
But I don't think, but purpose is different for every single person, obviously. Like everyone's motivation for doing everything is completely different. Like, I'm saying that one of my goals in running this business is to be happy.
Defined by...
I don't know.
Yachts, Bentley, beautiful women.
Well, if that makes me happy, whatever, right? I don't know. Well, you don't need money to be happy.
It's kind of this fuzzy thing in the distance that you're trying to define.
Well, I think no one can anyone define happiness. Like, I think you know it when you feel it, right? Yeah. Right.
So that's another interesting point. Is it chasing a feeling?
And you think I'll never get there?
No, I don't think it's possible.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's so fleeting. I don't think it's realistic.
Well, I guess, like...
I'm Mennonite.
Yes, you are.
Mennonites, they're stoic, right? It's a very stoic people.
Yeah.
They don't believe in happiness, like even in, in a religious setting. Celebrating God and salvation. It's done like solemnly with a straight face.
But isn't heaven happiness?
Try explaining that to my grandparents.
Okay. Right.
Like they're getting around to it, but like my background is extremely stoic. I was raised upon the principles of like
start doing carpentry when you're 10 because
Right.
building things will please God kind of thing.
Yeah, and if there's hard work to do it.
Yeah.
Not like, you know what, you should have a fulfilling social life and
Mental
you know,
health days.
if you're passionate about mountain biking, you should go and, you know, take a shot. Maybe you can be competitive at it. Maybe you could, you know, have some fun with that in your 20s. Like, no, it's like you got bills to pay, go get to work.
Yeah.
And it's this grim stoicism that, like, I guess I was raised with. And I'm testing the boundaries of that, of how much I like the stoicism. And there's a lot of value to it. It pays off really well. And like the family values too. It's like I do this for my family, and there's like my personal happiness, pleasure, or state of mind doesn't matter to anybody, including myself.
But you get fulfillment in do you get fulfillment in like small achievements, like milestones?
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
yeah, so do I.
I had a hilarious moment the one day driving through Cleveland, and I just saw I'm sitting at this stoplight. And I'm listening to Caribou, great song.
Shout out Tech 9.
Yeah, just cranked on the truck sound system. Sitting, you know, at a stoplight in the ghetto in Cleveland, and I look to my left, and there's like some like liquor store / we sell deli sandwiches and like pump gas, but there's just sketchy. And I look to the right side. And there's a hydro pole with a little poster on it. Written in Sharpie, it says Amish bus tours, $35.99. Call 216 da 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 da. And I laughed my ass off for blocks. And I'm like, who, how, why, where? Like who? With does this guy have a marketing degree? Like, why is this Amish bus tours thing?
Over here,
inner city Cleveland, and who, what? Like, I got such a hard laugh out of that.
Yeah.
And like I walk out the front door in the morning, and it's like beautiful weather, and she's like, "Wow, what a nice day." Like, yeah. I treat that like gratitude. You know, that's how I stay sane, is gratitude.
I think I agree with that. I think enjoying the little things is important. I think that. What's that fucking, where's that from? Where it's like we have to stop and acknowledge the little things or else they won't happen. Like you have to be grateful
for
when they happen or else they won't, right? You have to show gratitude. I don't know what that's from, but but that's basically the idea. It's like you have to, when something like that happens, you have to kind of stop and acknowledge it. Otherwise the universe won't give it to you anymore because you're not being grateful for it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but I think like in a day where, in a life where I'm, you know, if I kind of think the amount of pressure that I'm under, the amount of debt that I'm in, the amount of, you know, everyone that's relying on me, all that, if I think of that as a total, I think that's a lot to handle. But I kind of almost compartmentalize and say, like, I'm going to get this done, and when it's done, I celebrate getting that done, you know, instead of kind of thinking
I have this huge, you know, payroll to pay and all this overhead, but you know, I got there by doing what I'm doing, so I'm just going to keep doing that as well as I can.
Yeah.
I just don't think about it because that's not gonna help.
Well, and like I celebrate big paydays, but I don't really think about the amount of money that's going out of the bank account. That's my partner's. My partner does that part. He does the accounting. He figures out. I literally ask him. You've seen me do this. I text him. I'm like, how much money can I spend on this today?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I need to fix that thing. How much money do we have free? And he's like, oh, let me check. And then he's like, $300. I'm like, okay, perfect. Like, I don't even fucking know how much money's in the bank right now.
Yeah.
I just keep putting money in the bank.
And he keeps spending it. Yeah. No, I fully get that. I just was on a spending spree last 2 months for sure.
But every day we get a big payday, I celebrate that. Right? And I think, is that not happiness?
I don't know.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, what? I don't know. Is it like, you know? Like, I'd say so. I don't subscribe to the word at this point. That's at least diet happiness. That's that's at least like being able to celebrate something and have a like go out and have a pint and enjoy and say, hey, I worked really hard to get to where I am right now. I worked hard. The deal went through. I got paid. I won. That's at least happiness zero with the new 0 calories.
Net zero, yeah. It's like new Coke.
Yeah, it's Coke. Yeah, like happiness zero. I don't know. Diet happiness. Happiness without aspartame, or happiness with aspartame.
Kill it. Bottle's done. One down.
One bottle of wine down. There's my corkscrew.
So, let me ask you this. We're about to both spend a lot more money than we're comfortable with going on a trip.
Hello. Oh, yeah, we are.
Yeah, we're going to Mexico.
I don't think you're coming. I don't know. I don't believe you.
It's going to happen. I'll sell my car if I have to.
Oh, it is. Yeah, we are. I haven't actually announced this to the public yet, but I'm going through a breakup right now, and I had money saved to do something with my take her on a trip or something like that. And instead, I am going to take Tyler on a trip. I'm going to take myself on a trip. Myself and my family. We're going to go down to like my parents because my brother just passed away as well. So we're going down there. My grandma, my 2 parents, and down in Mexico for 2 weeks. And then I was talking.
Coming.
She is, yeah.
That'll be lit.
Yeah.
Drink?
No, but she's lit. She's fun. But you met her before.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Anyway, but so I was telling Tyler about this. Oh, we were talking about mental health or whatever, right? And you were saying I need a fucking break. And I'm like, I need a fucking break. And then I'm like, man, why don't you go? I basically said it. I wasn't even like serious, really. I'm like, oh, come to Mexico with me. And he's like, actually, let me run the budget here.
It's gonna be so loud. There you go.
Opening the second bottle line. And
Soundtrack. Sound bites.
I might cut all that out. I'm sure. What was the point? I don't know. Oh, because we're it's going to be extremely stressful spending the money.
And just not being at work. I might just be so stressed.
That's me too.
I'll just be on the phone the whole time.
I'm literally set. I'm like, man, we got to fucking pay the extra on the resort for Wi-Fi because I'm fucked.
Absolutely. That's not even an option.
If I can't talk to my business. But anyway, it's going to be stressful physically, mentally because of being away from the business. Stressful financially because we're spending money we really don't have any business spending right now.
Why the fuck are we doing this?
Because it's going to make us happy.
We need a vacation.
Because it's going to make us fucking happy. Because
we're getting old.
Being down there and enjoying ourselves, what else are we working for? If not stuff like that.
Right.
Is my opinion. Like, that's why I'm going, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like, what else are we doing?
Yeah.
Why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
Right.
So I spent way too much money on like a really fancy mountain bike because I'm like, you know what? This is my therapy retreat / pleasure for the year.
/ happiness.
Shit. Yeah.
Oh, got him.
Got him. It's the second bottle talking.
Calm down. We each had half a bottle. If we finish one bottle,
I've only eaten soup in 2 days. It's going straight.
You've eaten in 2 days?
Shut up.
But I think, little things like that, I think, give you little bits of happiness. And I think that's what else are we doing, not even as entrepreneurs, but in life. That's why people take vacations, right? Because their life sucks.
So how do you perceive, like we talked about, we skipped over it earlier.
Yeah, sure.
Let's use the analogy of I work at Great West Life.
The insurance broker.
As an account manager.
Sure, you are the account manager at an insurance place.
Yeah, one of 3,400 across the country.
Yes.
Or 340, whatever.
Whatever it is.
There's a lot of me. I'm not special.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm at the upper 5% of my field in this company.
Sure.
Still not significant. I mean, I get a big high five at the end of the year at the Christmas banquet, maybe. Some good feedback. Life's not great. Life's not miserable. How do you think people like that, and let's say you've been doing that for 35 years, no progression.
Yeah.
That person, are they pursuing happiness or pleasure anymore? Because they're probably spending majority of their time doing exactly what they want to do and giving up as little as possible to do more. You know, they're not going to make the sacrifices to do more. They're not going to level up. They'll hit their one vacation a year.
Well, let's say this. Let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being solitary confinement on death row, and 10 being, I don't know, Dan Blazarian. It's on
Dan Blazarian. That's a good scale.
On a happiness scale.
I like that scale.
Let's say if they're always at a 5, I'm often at a 2, but often at an 8.
Right, but that's what's interesting is it the variation that keeps life interesting?
Is
like 2 to 8, is that more fun than staying at 5?
So
depends who you are.
Put a pin in that, but I like chaos. Mm-hmm. I thrive in chaos, so I wouldn't have it any other way. But do you think that having the chance to be at an 8 or 9 or 10 is worth the 1, 2, or 3? It's like yeah, I would say so as well. It's like the fucking you can have $1 million, but if you flip a coin, if it's heads, you get $100 million. Do you flip the coin?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, of course. Right? 50.
Obviously.
That's good odds.
I don't have any money right now. So
that's good odds.
Send it.
Yeah. Same kind of idea, though, right?
Yeah.
It's like you have the opportunity to be much, and obviously happiness is an objective thing, or subjective rather. Everyone's happiness is different, right?
Right.
Because someone like Dan Blazarian's life with, strippers and porn stars and models hanging out with him all the time and flying around playing poker and drinking and stuff like that, that might not appeal to anyone. That doesn't appeal to my parents, for instance.
Well,
we think.
It might.
It might.
Have you asked?
I don't want to know. But I think that, what me or you might find appealing, we don't find appealing in regular life. What someone else might find appealing.
So what do you think a good entrepreneur pursues? If not happiness?
I think it is partly happiness. If not, it's some sort of what's fulfillment, right? Like why am I trying to be fulfilled? Is that not because I'm trying to be fulfilled to make myself happy?
Update. We've drank a bottle and an eighth of wine.
Yes.
Both on empty stomachs. So yes. We're going to call this transition. Buzzed enough to think different. I'd say my opinion on the question, should entrepreneurs believe in happiness? I think it's a stupid question.
You're flipping the script on its.
I'm flipping the script because you know what? If you can't admit that you ask stupid questions, well, I just had a interesting conversation with a staff member of mine where I had sent an email, requested some information, and what I was sent turned out to make no sense. She's like, well, I followed the instructions in the email. I'm like, well, that's not what I meant, but from what you perceived, it sounds pretty stupid, doesn't it? She's like, well, yeah. I'm like, then fucking call me and tell me I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
So, the willingness to say this is a stupid question.
So you remember when the first thing I said on this podcast was that you're an idiot and this is a stupid question? Mm-hmm. And you said, "Oh, what a way to start the podcast, dick." And then I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because I'm never wrong.
Play back and forward every episode of this podcast and count the times that Willows was never wrong.
I don't know what you're talking about. It was all by intention.
Sure.
It's my master plan. I don't disagree that it's a stupid question, but I also think that, yes, entrepreneurs should and can believe in happiness and do. And I think many entrepreneurs use future happiness, at least, as, a motivation to do what they do.
That's the funny thing, though. It's always deferred.
Okay.
You keep that carrot in front of you, not in your mouth.
Okay. But what percentage of me being happy in a day is the carrot on my mouth?
You take a nibble. You marginally achieve.
Is the carrot on my mouth? 24 hours a day I have to be happy to have the carrot on my mouth?
Oh, because then your state is even.
Well, exactly. So there is no perpetual state of happiness. It's always, achieving whatever your level of happiness is every single day, right?
So if it made you miserable, see, most people ask the question, if you could do there's a statement like, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
I don't believe that.
Agreed.
I think we talked about this on the podcast before.
Right. Anybody that runs a business is like, ha!
Yeah. No, I don't believe that.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
No.
Sorry, Gary B. Why am I blanking? Too much wine.
Man, you can't hang, honestly.
I can't.
No, for the record, though, Tyler, although he gets drunk quickly because he's 85 pounds and effeminate, he can drink pretty much just as long as I can, but your memory goes a lot. You are blackout
quickly.
A lot sooner than I am.
There's a lot of things I don't remember about Cleveland.
But there's many times we've gotten very drunk, and we're still awake at 5 a.m., both of us.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're just a lot less coherent than I am.
Sure.
But yeah, I think you hit your peak much sooner than I do.
Do you have one?
Do I have a peak of drinking? Probably. Not in years. I haven't hit it yet. My peak is about 10 years. And I'm halfway there. Anyway.
Sidebar.
See, this is the process, though. This is the process of anything. Me accomplishing something, I would say that makes me happy. Me proving somebody wrong makes me happy. And we can argue about the definition of happy, like I said, but I have a good time winning. I have a good time winning in my business.
I have a good time in a spirited debate with a client.
Or spirited debate with me.
Right. These are relatively positive. Getting yelled at and being called incompetent, somehow I still get some kind of satisfaction at those conversations.
We gotta find some topic that I'm gonna be mad about. I just don't get mad easily. I don't think neither of us do, right?
No, we don't.
I've seen you mad one time. I've seen you I'm not gonna say it on air, but I think you texted me when you fired that employee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I'm where's this Tyler been?
No, I've certainly turned a corner when it comes to being driven by my emotions, which I think maybe triggered this conversation as well, where I've been, like I said earlier, extremely stoic and level,
mm-hmm.
where I don't let stuff affect me up or down,
mm-hmm.
or I don't embrace it, or
mm-hmm.
I don't pay attention to it. And I've found that emotion motivates.
I think I have run a lot. I've started and ran my business very successfully off of spite for a long time.
I agree.
Where a lot of people told me I couldn't do it, so I never gave up.
Right. So you weren't chasing happiness for the longest time. You You are basically fulfilling this.
That can make me happy, though. It does.
That's fair.
It's a win, right?
It is satisfying to like punch back.
Yeah, like because like multiple times I've had this conversation where it's like I can't quit because what would people say about me?
Right.
What am I going to post on Facebook now? What the people that have my name tattooed on them? What am I going to tell them? I quit because it got hard.
I'm sorry.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, what am I going to say? What are these all them like? You know, I'm in the newspaper and stuff like that. It's like, oh, well, he's shut down now.
Nobody cares.
Right? It's like I was watching Kitchen Nightmares, and I'm like, oh, and the restaurant looked good, and at the end of the episode, they were fixed, and it was good. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh, I wonder how they're doing. I Googled them. It's like, oh, they closed 6 months later. And I'm like, well, fuck. Like, so, you know, if someone watches, like, this podcast or watches my content, and they're like, oh, I wonder how he's doing, they Google it. They're like, oh, I closed his business. And just is now gone.
Right. No, I'd prefer, like, he's in prison for, you know, doing some extremely risky shit to save his business.
You know, yeah, exactly. And you know, multiple times, I'm like, well, what people are going to fucking... It basically invalidates all the advice I've given over my life if I just give up.
Right.
When I tell people to just stick it out,
right?
Like, you know, it invalidates. You know, if I'm not walking the walk anymore, right? I'm one of those fucking the life gurus that have only ever made a living off of being a life guru, right?
What you're good at is being good at talking what they're good at.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I never. You know, so and that's okay. That's a different thing. That's different than spite, though. That's not wanting to let down people that believe in you, which is emotion, obviously. Because if I didn't give a shit, I would just be like, well, whatever. It was hard. But then the other side of that is there's so many people that are like, no, you idiot. You know, from my parents to my teachers, and then later in life, you know, people I met, friends that. Whatever, Facebook people, like, whatever, right? All the people that used to show on my business on Twitter and stuff, like, you know, it is what it is. Those people, I wanted to fucking make eat their words, like, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in leaning into your emotions.
It's like fucking Dark Side of the Force. Come on.
Yeah, no, I've had to get angry at people. I've had to really escalate. It's an interesting principle I heard in a podcast, Tim Ferriss podcast, one of my favorites. It was the CEO of IBM, or like CFO, or some high level guy of IBM. He just wrote a book about culture, which is like culture is not about what you believe in, it's about what you do as a company. It is.
Jamie, look that up for us.
Yeah, Jamie, what is
Shout out Joe Rogan.
Right. Anyways, he's like, I don't believe in conflict resolution when it comes to management or executive teams or board meetings. He's like, conflict resolution is counterproductive.
Okay.
Where if there is disagreement or conflict in a business setting, your job as a founder or entrepreneur or whatever is to almost like pour gas on the flames.
Well, I think
that's hard to do. When you see two people disagreeing, getting mad at each other, getting in there and stoking the fire is a weird counterintuitive thing.
Productive.
Especially for myself.
Yeah.
Well, it will inevitably be productive because
depends who the people are, though.
If they weren't disagreeing, like they're disagreeing because they care about something.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think my partner and I have come to good conclusions off of arguments. I think even us on this podcast and before this podcast, us arguing over shit has helped us come to conclusions, right?
Right. So if you treat it like a miscommunication, you're not going to actually solve any problems.
It's like, that's not what he meant.
Right.
If you just apologize for a misunderstanding, but that doesn't solve anything. Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
So that's interesting. I go with you.
So, I mean, Sidebar Nation, we're talking about emotions again, but
yeah.
Leaning into your emotions I think is more important than I thought it was.
Do you think it's imperative? Or do you think entrepreneurs have to lean into their emotions to be successful?
I think good entrepreneurs are emotional people.
That's interesting. Because you don't look at a lot of people in C-suite positions that are super emotional typically.
No, you'll have the guys that yell, scream, and shout when they pitch. They're passionate. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you need emotion to motivate.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
I like your double negatives.
I don't fully agree
Sell
with
it.
that. I don't fully agree with that, but
You need emotion to motivate.
well, because if you don't care, then you can't make anyone else care.
It's not even care. It's about like the impact that you make on somebody. Like when somebody fucks up,
Yeah.
and you're like, you know what, it's okay. Like I get it. I screw up all the time. You can't do that. You can be like, it is unacceptable that you made a single mistake, and I'm livid.
Do you think you
That
can?
actually modifies behavior.
Do you think you can run that kind of business without being a dick, though?
It's the principle of a silk glove over an iron fist.
Well, I guess you look at
Soft touch with a strong.
most people that have worked closely with Steve Jobs agree that he was a
Tyrant.
very mean person.
Yeah.
Didn't put up with anything.
But look what he made.
His legacy doesn't really reflect that, though, right? Most people don't. You say Steve Jobs, and they go, "Oh, that dick," you know.
Right, people don't think that.
People don't think like that.
Unless he worked with him.
Yeah.
And I know somebody like that. And who
Yeah.
the hell knows what his legacy is going to be?
I think I know what you're talking about.
It's not a big mystery.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess like there's. I always want to have the balance between being a good leader while still being. Well, I think people can respect you if they hate you.
Sure.
I respect a bunch of people I hate.
Yep.
I don't hate anybody, but like you know, I mean, like, there's people I really wouldn't ever want to get a beer with.
Agree with, subscribe to.
But I respect their ability. We've
Get shit done.
both worked with people like that, right?
Yeah.
But I definitely want to like. What's the Michael Scott quote where he's like, "Would I rather be feared or hated, or feared or loved? I want people to fear how much they love me," or something like that.
That is a good Michael Scott quote.
Yeah. But I guess like with my now I have this is the first year ever I've had employees.
Yeah.
And I try to be as agreeable and listen to their advice, and
2 employees is fun.
100 employees is not.
Once you break 7,
Okay.
I think it gets interesting.
Okay. Well, I'll speak
Cross
to
that
that.
bridge when
I'll
you get
speak to
there.
that one. I'm hiring 2 more people right away, so
Yeah.
I'll speak to that when I can. But I think I can have hard rules without being a dick about it, though.
Yes, if that works.
Well, I guess everyone's management style is different, and also different organizations are different.
Every
Apple computers in the 80s and 90s, when they were literally inventing things that never existed before, I think had to kind of have a little bit more. They wouldn't have got there if Steve Jobs wasn't the same way he was.
I love the
right?
story of the iPod where he took like the first prototype of the iPod Classic and it was just like a brick. It was massive. And they're like, and he's like, did you make this as small as possible? And they're like, yes. And he's looking at these engineers and they're like, yes, we made it as small as it possibly could be. So he takes this like $1 million prototype and he throws it in a fish tank.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you doing? They're freaking out. And he takes it out of the fish tank and water is just pouring out of this thing. He's like, look at all the spaces inside of this. If there was really no way to make this thing smaller, no water should be able to fit in this device because there would be no air. And he's like, get back to work. Like a year later, they shrunk it down to half the size.
Yeah, there's stories. I might get some of the details wrong, but I know there's stories where he's like, something like that, where he's like half the size, and like, we can't. He's like, we'll do it. And like, well, it's impossible. He's like, do it, please.
Or Henry Ford in the V8.
Yeah, get it done. Like, figure it out, right? Like, but that spawned literally new ways of thinking about things. Like, they invented new methods of technology to solve a problem.
But you have to be massively discontent with reality in order to do that.
Yeah, because people, yeah.
You're incredibly unhappy about the way things are.
Yeah.
Or
'Cause, like,
are you incredibly happy about the future and the way things could be?
Well, because neither of us, you or me, are doing anything different that hasn't been done before.
No.
Right. Wine has been made for 5,000 years. Longer, maybe.
Real estate's been traded longer than that.
Real estate has been traded probably long. Yeah. People were trading wine for real estate 10,000 years ago. Literally. Like,
yeah.
I said literally a lot. I'm going to stop doing that. We're in some of the oldest professions in the world. We're not inventing anything new. I'm not inventing any new methods. Neither are you, really.
No.
Right?
Just implementing some technology, which I didn't invent.
Exactly. Well, exactly, right? But Steve Jobs was. Henry Ford was. Inventing things that were completely new.
Gotta up our game.
I don't want to.
Why?
2019? Almost 2020, man? I can Google whatever. Like, I don't need to invent something new. I can just you literally, it's cheaper for you to buy technology and implement it.
Yes.
Than invent technology.
Absolutely. Like the things I speculated about being possible in this industry. I'm like, oh, I could just buy that.
Yeah.
People have been doing that for like 12 years.
People have been doing it, right? Like,
somebody's got higher stakes than me and they needed to do
which the pessimist would say, I think, like, there's nothing else to invent. I can't make $1 million anymore. And then myself, or I think you, would be like, man, all this shit has been invented. It's so easy to make $1 million now.
Yeah, some idiots trying to innovate on this industry that doesn't exist yet. Let me go fulfill that need.
Exactly.
Oh, you have this niche idea about the way real estate could generate capital? Well, let's make a software about that. Hey, let's build an app.
Yeah.
Well, somebody's got to use that app to make money.
Yeah.
And that's companies like ours.
Yeah. I got sidetracked, which is good.
Absolutely.
It's good.
What the hell are we talking about?
It all comes back to emotion, though. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about happiness, and then we were talking about passion from emotion.
So how do you deal with the days that are the opposite?
That are bad?
That are just bad. I know you've had a lot of bad days this year. How do you deal with the bad?
Just power through it, pretty much. Like, what else am I doing?
Just eat it.
Well, I either die or I live, right? Like, that's...
It does come down to that.
It does, right? So, for context, I won't get into it, but, like, I've had a lot of bad days recently for unbusiness related things.
Right, emotional state.
A couple very close personal things. I think I talked about already. Breakup and my brother and a few other things that have happened that are out of my control, obviously, or more or less out of my control.
And to be clear, this is the only reason we made this podcast is for our own personal therapy because we don't want to pay for therapy.
And I do pay for therapy, and
but this
we still have to do this. But
not enough.
Never enough. I gotta have my therapist follow me around and answer my questions constantly, and it still wouldn't be enough therapy.
I can't wait to be a billionaire with an entourage.
And just do that?
And just like have a guy who's like on my shoulder and be like,
it's like a bunch of guys with guns and fucking bottles, and a guy in the corner is your therapist. He's like,
he's got a sweater vest on.
Yeah.
And like at some point in the day, you literally just lean over and be like, hey, could you like really validate me right now? Like that's all you need.
Honestly, my therapist dresses like you.
Shit. Well, I guess that's what I am today.
Anyway, but I've had a lot of bad days recently. Last 6 to 9 months. But I would say I've had more bad days in the last 12 months than I've had good days.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And do I think the good days are worth the bad days? Absolutely. No question.
Context.
I would think that there's nothing like me being able to experience the good things that happen to me are worth all the bad things that happen to me.
And experiencing the happiness of others.
Yeah.
People that are happy to enjoy your wine.
Yeah. Little things, right? Yeah, no, being able to sell a product that someone loves. And we get emails all the time, like, thanking us. Some fucking guy called the business line, like the desk phone in the office, drunk out of his goddamn mind. He said, I forget what he bought. It was like the sangria. He's like, man, this is the best thing I've ever drank in my entire life. He just drunk, slurring his words. we're like, thanks. And then we were expecting him to like ask a question or something. He's like, okay, have a good night, man. Like, just hung up.
Wish my tenants were
Called our business to just thank us that we made a good product. That just because and my partner said that in the group chat because we switched the forwarding on the desk phone when we're not there to one of our cells. So we got it. So we said that in the company group chat. He's like, yeah, so this fucking guy just called us, obviously drunk, thanked us for making the sangria, and then hung up. And I'm like, wait, that's the only reason he called? He's like, yeah. I'm like, that I'm smiling talking about it. Like, that makes me happy. Like, shit like that like, we literally have, now that literally was on purpose. I have thousands of customers a month, like individual customers. Like, thousands. And many of them, people review us online and stuff and send us whatever. Whenever they buy on Square at events, they get a prompt to send a review.
Mm-hmm.
We get 5-star reviews all the time, being like, love the product, love the service, love the people. Like, people I've never met in my entire life. That, little things like that is why I do this business.
I had some interesting feedback from my office manager that I hired down in Cleveland. So she's been in the business 20 plus years in real estate. And it's an incredibly, grim, brutal business. Of course. I evicted, aka police showed up, throw your ass out on the curb with all your shit, 5 families this morning.
Oof.
And that's happening every third day.
See, we're in really different businesses like that.
Extremely. But at the same time, on the flip side, there's a family moving into a new house that they needed.
Does that ever affect you?
Used to. First couple did. At this point, I'm like, you know what? You're stealing from me. Get the fuck out of my house. So.
Do you think that's because you get numb to it?
No, I think it's because I understand it better. And the emotions, like.
You always hear, like,
become more complex, right?
You always hear, like, the left Facebook always saying, like, eat the landlords and stuff like that, like guillotine the landlords, right? Like,
right, yeah, guillotine the landlords. You know what you're gonna have? Drive through East Cleveland. It looks like fucking Chernobyl. That's what you're gonna have if you guillotine the landlords. You're gonna have a desolate land of no housing, no furnaces, hot water tank, heater, flushing toilets.
That's an argument for another day. But
right, like let the people fix their own toilets. God, I wish.
That's Atlas Shrugged, right?
Right.
All the businesses torch their businesses and leave.
Yeah.
Seize the means of production, but you don't know how to run a factory. Right? That's that argument. I don't want to get into that right now.
Love that book.
Yeah, that's a whole. We'll talk about that on another podcast, I'm sure. That's another whole other thing.
Altruism.
Yeah. But.
I was going towards my office manager. So,
right.
And Nick and myself. Nick is the founder of Limitless. He's actually a year younger than me, so he's 23 years old.
Good
and wisdom, 20 years beyond his years, and that's coming from somebody that people always say that to. So really look up to the guy. But never fucking smiles. Ever. So
No, we were playing bocce ball in my backyard that one time.
He smiled once.
He smiled when he hit a ball in bocce ball.
Right, exactly.
No, was that lawn darts or bocce ball? No, it was bocce ball.
Yeah, no, like you literally will remember the point where this guy's himself. Because that's just how he is, right? He's extremely stoic, straight-faced, whatever. And we have this crazy idea, which we may, or hopefully will implement in the next couple months here. We're going to raffle off a house.
Yeah, you were talking.
Which means like $25 tickets. We're going to make it accessible price-wise and accessible in terms of neighborhood, school division, whatever.
Which, if you're listening, Eastern Canada Lottery Corporation, they're doing this in the United States of America, so you have no authority over here because I know you've been cracking down on stuff like that. Not your country, not your problem.
And ain't no taxes being paid to you.
Go away. No. Anyway, back to your regular scheduled program.
Cleveland, call me. So lotteries, to my understanding, are very unregulated, at least raffles and things like that.
Down there. Here they are not.
Exactly. So I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. That means us, a private corporation, can actually make money doing something like this. So what we're going to do with the capital is we're going to raffle off a house that we have that's a beautiful house, really good rehab that we in fact overspent on, which is good for the customer, bad for the investor.
Of course.
So we're going to raffle off a house we overspent on, which is really, really nice. And the idea is to get it to a family. So we're going to disqualify anybody that's an investor.
Okay.
And it's exclusively going to go to a family.
That's cool.
And prepaid property taxes for a year, prepaid utilities for a year, free car, massive grocery gift certificate, like a couple $1,000s, so on and so forth.
Probably get sponsors for that, eh?
Yeah, exactly. In cash on top of that.
All you have to do is include in charity, and then people donate, right?
So it's going to be like total cash value, because houses are cheap there. Total cash value is going to be like a house plus 30 grand. So if we sell our quota of tickets, we'll probably damn near double our money on the investment. And it's an incredible profit, but you're also doing an incredible service to the community, because somebody's going to get their life changed for a marginal amount of money.
Yeah.
And, we'll do this every 6 months, probably in both the main neighborhoods we operate in. There's 2 sides of Cleveland that we operate in. And, Kinsman area and St. Clair Superior for anybody in Cleveland.
Shout out to St. Clair Superior.
Right. Exactly. Akron if you're LeBron James. And
I don't get the reference, but okay.
Right. So anyways, we're going to raffle off a house. It's going to be brilliant. But us talking about this project, and it didn't register to me whatsoever. But my office manager, who's, born and raised there, been in the industry 20 plus years, she says, I think this is the first time I've seen either you or Nick smile, she said to me.
Interesting.
When we talked about giving away a house, virtually giving away a house, like we weren't even thinking about the profit. We're like, we're going to give away a house to a family.
Yeah. And
with the profits, we're going to spend it on Thanksgiving dinner for 500 families and Christmas gifts for probably 500 plus households. It's not like donate some food, donate some Christmas gifts, we'll hand it out. No, we're going to buy it with our profits.
Yeah.
Lay out cash, buy a semi-load of turkeys, whatever. Mm-hmm. Use volunteers to distribute. That's what we want to do with the capital. Maybe pay off some debt so we can continue to operate and,
maybe not go out of business.
Fix people's houses, right? But that was the only time we smiled, is when we talked about giving stuff away. And we had a very, very intense conversation, Nick and I, where we're like, we both got into business because we believe we have the ability to give back to the people.
Yeah.
And although I may suffer the entire time, I will do it because I can. And because, I worked in nonprofit for several years, and I realized, I'm like, you know what? Nonprofit is governed by those that make profit and can, distribute capital, and they have far more impact than I could ever do with my, 24 hours in a day. I can do better than 24 hours in a day. I can leverage myself and I make tons of money, donate, and get things done. So the idea of building a team around this idea of donating a house and giving it to people, like, it's going to be, it's going to be a miserable pursuit. Getting it done is going to be very difficult. It's going to expose us to a lot of criticism. It's going to expose us to all kinds of things that are probably going to hurt a hell of a lot. But we're going to do it because we believe in the mission. So I think that's like, if you're an entrepreneur, in terms of what you believe in and what you pursue, if happiness is number one, I think you're fucked. I don't think you're going to get where you want to go.
So you think you'd put, to quote
purpose in other people?
Spock.
Yeah.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, yeah?
If you don't believe in that as a business owner, hate to break it to you, I don't think you're going to make it too far.
I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think because every bottle I sell makes probably the customer happier than it makes me.
Right.
Well, ironically, right? You wouldn't think that.
I fully subscribe to the fact that I will sacrifice my own happiness for the good of my family or the good of the people that I can help.
I guess I probably land on the same conclusion, but I get there a different. I don't give a shit about people. I don't have a family. I don't give a shit about people.
Not yet, yeah.
No, but that was hyperbole, obviously. But I care. I guess I just get there the opposite way, where it's like I become secure, therefore I help people, when you're like, I want to help, I help people, therefore become secure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, well, the evolution of wealth is take care of yourself, which neither of us have achieved yet.
no.
Then take care of your family.
Yeah.
Then take care of your community.
Yeah. And keep going outwards.
Then your nation. Then the world.
Yeah.
And people like Bill Gates are like, hey, let's launch a $20 billion startup. You know, they're changing the world.
But even like my employee telling me, like, I gave him a Christmas bonus, or not a Christmas bonus. I gave him an end of market season bonus because we're very busy in the summer with all our farmers markets.
And very PC apparently.
Why?
It's not Christmas.
Oh, whoops. Anyway, but end of farmers market season. So like in September of this year, I gave him an envelope of cash with his paycheck.
Fully documented.
It was 100% legal CRA. Check my books. Anyway, yeah, no, I gave him. We deal with a lot of cash at markets. Come on, whatever. Anyway, I gave him an envelope of cash as a end of market season bonus, and I intend to make that a thing going forward. Like every year, I'm going to give all my employees a bonus.
Yep.
In lieu of, I don't really, because Christmas, we're spending a ton of money in December to make all the wine for Christmas.
Yeah. I
don't have really money in the Christmas season to give away. End of the market season, I absolutely do, because we haven't ramped up yet again. Anyway, and he didn't even tell me at the time, but he told me like a month later. This was just a few weeks ago. That he was like, actually, he's like, I was meaning to. We were just hanging out like off the clock, and he was like, man, I've been meaning to tell you, like, really thanks for that bonus, because I fucked up doing my budget or something like that, and I was actually $100 short for my car payment or something like that, and my car was gonna, be fucked and whatever. And then literally the next day, you gave me this envelope of $500, and it like saved me. And I'm like, and that made me really happy.
Yeah.
Right? Is like, I didn't have to do that. I was under no obligation as an entrepreneur to.
So you sacrificed your own happiness to.
Well, I could have given myself that money.
Right, but you gave it to him, which was a far, far greater reward.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? Yeah. And here's a good one. Entrepreneurs, can they believe in other people's happiness?
Absolutely. I'm completely altruistic about making my, clients happy.
Okay.
I mean, except for the dumb ones, but
you have tenants, but then you also have clients that are investors.
Yeah, maybe this is why I feel this way, because nobody's fully happy, because if I make one of them happy, the other's not.
Okay, but there's
like a good it follows the principle of a good negotiation is when everybody leaves the table pissed.
Yeah. There's no one that's not happy in my case, though. Right.
You get to sell a pleasure product.
Yes. Because I make people happy to buy it, and I make money off selling.
Yeah.
We're in very different businesses.
That's why liquor is 5,000 years old.
That's why liquor's not going anywhere.
And real estate is always trading every couple of years. Somebody's got pissed.
Liquor is recession-proof, because when people are poor, they drink because they're poor. When they're rich, they drink because they're rich. When they're sad, they drink because they're sad. When they're happy, they drink because they're happy. During Prohibition, alcohol consumption went up.
Which is amazing.
Because people that would have like one or two beers were like, well, why can't I have a beer? Like,
I'm stressed about this.
And because also the organized crime flooded the market with alcohol, and it was cheaper than ever before. But whatever.
I mean, private versus public / regulated.
Also, 1930s was a lot different than now, obviously.
Unfortunately.
Alcohol, but you know that this is a complete tangent, but you know that during Prohibition, police officers were poisoning alcohol so that it would be undrinkable.
Right.
And they actually killed hundreds of people.
And then, oops.
No, they don't, whatever, they don't care.
That was the goal.
Well, pretty much.
You broke the law, you died.
Yeah.
There's your sentence.
There's your judge and jury, right? Yeah, it's.
You know what's funny? I was interviewed by a friend of mine who's in university who's taking a test on, intoxicants,
Yeah.
plants, otherwise,
Right.
and was drilling me on questions about the production of wine. How is whiskey made? Where is tequila from? How is tequila produced? How is beer produced? What are the ingredients of that? Where does that come from? And I fucking nailed like 80% of the questions.
Because of me?
Yes, largely in part because of you, more so because of Isaac's.
Okay, my business.
Yes.
Isaac's is my business partner for context.
Yeah, you ask him anything about the 1973 Farmer's Almanac, and he will talk your fucking face off.
No, it's the 1980 Canadian World Almanac and Book of Facts.
My bad. Memorized. Also the Manitoba liquor laws.
Regulations.
Regulations.
You
sit down in front of a lawyer and they're like, well, in fact, you have to do this. He's like, but, actually, from 1993, there was a precedent passed in court with this and this magistrate. And in fact, what they said is like...
He'll probably be on this podcast at some time.
Should be a lawyer.
He'll probably be on this podcast at some point. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Bloody amazing. Brilliant fellow.
Anyway, you were saying you're someone interviewing you?
Yes, I was getting interviewed and I was absolutely nailing these questions about, production of alcohol and like effective drugs and like what does LSD do? Not that we ever partake in illicit drugs because that would be illegal. I do a lot of research and watch YouTube.
Yes, obviously.
So
I've never done anything illegal.
And she's in a course for this, paid hundreds of dollars. Yeah. Now I was up for an exam and I'm like, I just know this stuff because I enjoy it.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah, and I've just absorbed it through osmosis.
Well, my business partner is a high school dropout. I am a high school graduate with 48% average.
Right, and if he challenged a food science exam or his math, he could probably write a dissertation and a master's on food science.
Yeah, maybe not vocabulary wise, or not vocabulary, but writing ability wise, maybe not. But
he could get it done.
We can figure it out. But anyway, what's this other argument for another day? Is I don't think education is.
Fuck education.
Yeah, education's not a
reflection fuck school.
School is not
promote education.
Yeah, the school is not a reflection of education at all. Everything I know, every piece of fact, everything that I'm able to regurgitate is from on the job learning, not from any formal education or fucking Wikipedia. I literally, if I'm interested about something, I'll read a 10-minute Wikipedia article and then retain that information.
Right.
Rather than going to school, right? You know what I mean? Like,
hey, Google.
That's on airplane mode.
So, in conclusion, do you believe in happiness?
Yeah.
Should entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
Believe in happiness?
Yes, I think that's one of the things that they should keep ahead of them to get through the hard times.
I agree. It's a very good motivator. But if you make it a goal to be in that state, you're going to suffer massively.
I think you're going to suffer massively anyway. I think you may as well make happiness a goal.
Right, but if you avoid suffering...
If you avoid suffering, you haven't done anything in your life.
True. I think it's a terrible question.
Yeah, okay.
Because the true question is, what kind of happiness do you believe in? How do you define happiness?
Well, I guess
why do you do what you do? And is it because of personal pleasure? Is it because of personal fulfillment? Or is it because you want to do great for other people? Like, how do you define your values and your happiness?
Well, it's what is your goal? And is being an entrepreneur going to get you to your goal?
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but, you talk to an amateur or not person that wants to be an entrepreneur or is trying to be, you can pick apart in a very short order whether this person's going to make it or not, just based on their values and how they talk about it.
Typically.
How they talk about the subject.
Yeah.
Like, I'm out here to live the laptop lifestyle and go to Tahiti. Like, this guy's, he's fucked.
Yeah.
He might get 3 years of good times, but he's going to end up working a job.
Yeah.
So, does believing in happiness make you... Is that a good way to equip yourself for success. Of like, I'm doing this for that. Or is it the wrong question to ask as an entrepreneur?
I think it's the wrong question to ask. I think it's
If you're asking that, you're
also
probably on the wrong track.
Also timeline, right? We can both agree we're going to be happy in 25 years. Every day.
Probably, yeah.
Or at least every day minus,
anything that doesn't make us happy, we can just be like,
other than death of a family member, something like that, obviously.
Woo!
We're gonna have much more good days than bad in 20 years, right? In my lifetime, I'm gonna have more good days than bad. Right now, just because I'm not.
Because both the bad and good will satisfy.
I like the hustle.
I love winning in court.
Yeah. I want to show up to my traffic tickets with a team of 10 lawyers that are paying $1,000.
Like that article where this girl took a $300 ticket to Supreme Court.
Well,
absolutely gonna be me.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm paying the top lawyers in the country to fucking come to me with my speeding tickets.
Right. Shout out to Peter Nygaard who habitually brings people into his compound illegally in another country, and then gets those people thrown in jail, and then pays the bail, and is in constant conflict with local government. I'm sure he's having a fucking whale of a time. He's like, fuck the island and all the expensive sculptures I just bought / paid for, and the booze and the girls and whatever. I like throwing money at this government and seeing how they twitch.
Well, because I value money a lot less than I value a lot of things.
Yeah. Right. It's funny to see how other people react. Yeah. $15 goes a long way in Cleveland, buddy. Oh my goodness.
There's a joke to be made there. But anyway, I think we're pretty much wrapping up.
If you're asking the question, realign your values.
Don't worry, be happy. It's my final. Thanks for listening. Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast. Follow us on Facebook.
Buy some Shrugging Doctor.
Honestly. Shrugdoc.com. SHRUGDOC.com. We ship Canada-wide now. You can literally just buy off the same site. If you're putting an address that's not in Winnipeg, instead of delivery, it goes to shipping. If you're in Winnipeg, it goes to delivery. They sponsored this episode. This
cost of 2 bottles of wine.
The cost of nothing. Anyway, but
we're pretty cheap.
We are. Yeah. Okay. Follow us on Facebook. I'm thinking I'm gonna make an Instagram because I like Instagram.
What for the
podcast?
Yeah.
Agreed. So I think I'm gonna probably do that. I don't know what the at is. I'll let you know next episode. But Facebook, Alcohol Beyond This Point, Spotify. We're on a bunch of things now. Apple Music, Spreaker, fucking bunch of things. We're on 10 places.
And if you listen to this, I've never said this before, but it just occurred to me. If you listen to this podcast sober,
listen to it again drunk.
Fuck you.
Listen to it again drunk.
Buy some Shrug and get drinking.
Listen to it again drunk. See if you agree with it.
If you can't relate, get on our level.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. I think that was a good debate. At Vote Willows, VOTEWILOWS on everything. Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Tyler doesn't have social media. Don't worry.
No, I'm.
No, he doesn't have anything.
Out of date.
He doesn't have anything.
Out of date.
He doesn't have anything.
Tyler Bergen, DPP, Dream Bleed Pursue, which don't means something, unfortunately. So stay thirsty, my friends. We gotta have a sign off.
Whatever, man.
Stay thirsty.
No, we're not gonna copy fucking. We're gonna sue.
Ask stupid questions.
Get stupid results.
Get stupid answers.
Just thanks for listening. We don't need to send off, but
man,
cheers.